Pre-Authorized Payments, or ACH payments. This option allows your resident to agree to have a specific amount of money withdrawn from a bank account on a either one-time or recurring basis. This is a function of the Payments module in OneSite. So if you are able to scan checks directly into OneSite, and in your menu, if you see the Payments option, that means that you have this module available to you. If you have a resident that is interested in either a one-time or a recurring withdrawal from their bank account, either a checking or savings account, you can obtain the authorization form from letters and notices. So I'm going to find my resident in view. And under letters and notices, I'm going to go under general and select new to create a new letter. And if I scroll down, you'll see an option for pre-authorized payments form one time and pre-authorized payments form recurring. You'll see in this case there are 2 copies of each letter, and that is they're the same letter. It's an error that I'm going to take care of after this training, so you can ignore that. But you will see a one-time form and a recurring form. So if your resident is looking for a one-time withdrawal from their bank account, perhaps they have a little extra to pay because of damages, they want to use an automatic withdrawal for their security deposit, and obviously that's a one-time payment. So you would use the one-time payment form. If they want to pay their monthly recurring charges such as rent and have an amount withdrawn on a recurring basis, they can use the recurring form to request that withdrawal. So I open up the one-time debit form so that you can see this. So this is what the authorization form looks like. And if you generate this from letters and notices, it will fill out the fields for you about the member name, unit number, and site name. You'll see at the top it does indicate this is a single entry debit authorization form, and we are initiating a single debit entry to the account indicated below. We can only withdraw from either a checking or a savings account. The resident should indicate the name of the bank, the name on the account. So if it is an account other than their own, or if another member of the household is the owner of the account, we need to have that indicated. The routing number and the account number. And then you'll see there's also a note to please attach a copy of a voided check. This is our double check that the routing and account numbers are correct that have been provided to us. And if they do not match what's on the form, we should clarify that with the resident if it is not apparent that it was a typo. The next section is the amount and the transaction date to withdraw. You'll see the note there, the transaction date must be the 6th or later. This is because the system is going to withdraw from the bank or initiate that withdrawal 1 day prior to the transaction date so that it posts on their ledger as of the transaction date. All of this will happen during the middle of the night payments processing. And we run into issues when the beginning of the month is a holiday or a weekend. So that is why we have indicated that this should be the 6th or later. This prevents issues where it withdraws in the previous month or before someone's Social Security or other recurring income has been deposited. You'll see at the bottom, the authorization is in force for the number of payments above. In this case, this is a single debit entry. They should complete their name, sign it, and the date autofills with the date that this form was printed. The recurring form looks very similar. You'll see I entered in some information into the fields at the top, and you'll see it does say recurring debit authorization. So there is your trigger that this is for multiple debits. The top here is the same with the bank account information, and we still want a copy of the voided check. However, this next section is a little bit different from the single entry. What I want you to pay particular attention to is that this form is asking for a fixed amount to be debited each month. So that could be their rent amount. It could be rent plus another charge. It could be their AC charge, whatever that fixed amount is. It's important to note this because that is the option you're going to select in OneSite when entering the pre-authorized payment and activating it, is we're going to use the fixed amount. The number of payments, if someone just had an annual recertification, and in the example that I'm entering, we're going to pretend that the annual recertification is effective for August of 2019. It's been signed. I already know what my rent amount is, so I'm going to sign a new pre-authorized payments form. The number of payments in that instance will be 12 because it will be 12 more months until my next annual recertification. If my next annual recertification is in 6 months, my number of payments will be 6. If I'm due for an annual recertification in November, I will have payments for August, September, October, and then we'll start a new pre-authorized payment as of November with my annual recertification. The frequency of payments, we do have an option to enter in a different frequency other than monthly if necessary for that household. You'll see here the start date must be the 6th or later again. So one thing to note is that the start date is going to be the date that the system initiates that withdrawal from the bank. So if I enter in a start date for today, which is July 10th, it's going to initiate a bank withdrawal as of July 10th. If I don't want to start this until August with my August recert, my start date should not be before August 6th. Now we are not going to apply any late fees to households that are on a pre-authorized payments agreement, even if their start date is after the 5th of the month. We're not going to apply late fees. So you can let that household know that if they have their recurring income being deposited into their account as of the 3rd or the 4th of the month, we're going to ensure that the pre-authorized agreement is for after that date, and you could do it even for the 10th of the month, and they will not incur late fees because we know that the money is going to be withdrawn from their bank account. Whatever date of the month that I choose as the start date will be the day of the month that this processes every month. So for example, if I choose to start this as of August 10th, the bank withdrawal is going to happen one day prior each month. So on the 9th of the month, my bank is going to get pinged and asked for this withdrawal. It's then going to be posted on my ledger in OneSite as of the 10th of the month. And the bottom is essentially the same with an authorization, name, signature, and a date. So when your resident has completed this form, it should look something like this example. So here I've completed the form. I've indicated it's a checking account for a savings bank. Here's my routing number and my account number. I should then attach a voided check showing these same numbers. If they do not have a check, perhaps it's their savings account and they don't have checks for it, they can provide a statement or something from the bank showing their routing number or an account number. Here I've indicated the fixed amount to be debited each month is $200 for 12 months because my annual recertification is effective for August 1st. So I'm anticipating that my rent will be the same for the next 12 months. I want the start date to be August 6th. So every month around the 5th of the month, my bank is going to get asked for this withdrawal. I have printed my name and signed at the bottom. move that to the side here. Now there are two places where you can enter a new pre-authorized payment and manage your pre-authorized payments. And the first is from the Household Summary tab. You'll see at the bottom next to Scheduled Billing is Pre-Authorized Payment. So when I select that for this household, you'll see there is nothing active. So I can use Enter Scheduled Payment, and it gives me a nice pop-up that somewhat mirrors our form. So we have our household name, the unit number fills because we're already in the unit. We can opt to enter an email. Now the ledger type, you see if there is a deposit payment that needs to be made, we can select deposit. In this case, this is my resident ledger. I want to pay my rent on a monthly basis. So here's where you can select one time, weekly, yearly, daily. Most likely not going to use daily. It's very possible you use weekly or semi-monthly. Again, my start date is going to be the first date that this processes and posts to my ledger. So I don't want this to post as of today. I want this to start in August. So my start date is August 6th. Number of occurrences, I'm going to enter 12. This way, this pre-authorized agreement is going to expire after 12 occurrences, so that it does not continue past my next annual recertification, and we don't have an error where there's accidentally two pre-authorized agreements active at the same time. Now remember on the form that I had noted fixed amount to be debited each month, because you want to use the fixed amount option here in OneSite. The open balance and the current balance options will include any subsidy charges as well, because subsidy charges are on the resident ledger. So you don't want a resident paying $1,200 a month if their rent is only $200 of that. If you have multiple household members who are opting for pre-authorized payment and one household member wants to pay 50% of the rent, we most often see this in units that are not subsidized, where the subsidy would not be an issue with regard to charges on the resident ledger. They can opt for a percentage. You'll see that there is no way for me to enter a percentage of a specific payment amount. So what I would suggest in that case, if you have two household members and they each want to pay 50%, I would use the fixed amount and I would manually calculate what that 50% is. So if their rent is $200, each person's payment will be $100. This reduces error and instances where too much money is withdrawn from someone's account. So I'm going to enter this like I had it on my form. I'm going to pay my full $200. This is a pre-authorized payment. You'll see my bank options. I can select checking or savings. We do not accept credit cards. My account description is going to be First Savings Bank, account holder, myself, my routing number, and my account number. So all of this is copied right from this form. Kind of shrink up a little bit here. So my 8/6 is the start date entered, 12 monthly occurrences, the fixed amount of $200. Here's my bank name, name on the account, the routing number, and the account number. Now it's important to note that we have assigned authorization on file for the specific transaction. And when you're happy with it, you can select Finish. This is telling me the routing number is not valid, so it's not going to allow me to finish this. Okay. If we do not have assigned authorization on file, we cannot proceed with entering in the pre-authorized agreement. And if there are any changes that need to be made to the pre-authorized agreement, so for example, if I were to report for an interim recertification and my rent decreases to $175 and I want to change my pre-authorized payment, I have to sign a new authorization form. That is because the amount that I agreed to on the form is now different. So I would need to complete a new form. If my bank account information is the same, you don't need a new voided check, but I would still have the resident complete the top portion and note same bank account as previous agreement. These agreements should be hole punched and included in the resident file in section 4 with your memos and your correspondence with the household. This is not related directly to an annual recertification, and you want to be able to go back and reference these agreements as needed. Unfortunately, when you go in and you enter a new agreement, it is not going to save the bank account information from the previous agreement, so you do need to re-enter it. I'm going to exit out of this screen, exit out of this screen. Now the other place where you can manage pre-authorized payments is from the payments module, and you'll see a tab here for pre-authorized payments. And I don't believe this property has any. No. So the bottom here is a way to search through all of the pre-authorized payments. You'll see that there were no results. Start date, end date. So these are all of this would show any pre-authorized payments that have an effective date between these two dates. Whether this was processed, failed, incomplete, the frequency, whether it's ACH or credit card, which we don't accept credit cards, and then the type of payment. And we're always going to use fixed, right, because that's what's on the form. Now you can use the new button here to enter in a new pre-authorized payment. And in this case, you can use the Find Resident option to pull up that resident, just like before. And when I select the resident, you'll see it fills in the unit number, and it is the exact same form as we saw from the summary page. So that is entering in those pre-authorized payments. So I've gone into another property here and gone to the pre-authorized payments tab, and you'll see that I searched from July 1st through July 11th. Use the search option here, and it's showing all of these different types of payments, and you'll see here at the top these ones that are highlighted in kind of that yellowish green color. You see the key down here below, it tells us those are expiring. I can also see that all of these are marked F for fixed amount, just down here at the bottom, and these were all entered by the site, which is perfect. That's what we want to see. So I can see all of the pre-authorized payments that are active for this property between these two dates. And if I want to know more about a pre-authorized agreement, I can use the magnifying glass, and it's going to bring up information about that for me. So I can see this started as of September 6th, 2018 for 12 months, the fixed amount of $519. So this resident has rent amount of $519, and this is going to expire as of August 6th. That will be the 12th occurrence. So the system is warning the site that they need to enter in a new repayment agreement for this household. It may be the same amount, or it may be a different amount depending on their annual recertification. You'll see under the account information that it doesn't give me the bank account or routing number. This is for safety reasons. So if you need to re-enter in a repayment agreement, or a pre-authorized payment agreement, apologize, you do need to pull that from the file and obtain that from the household. You can see the payment schedule, what was processed for each month and the date that it was processed. You can see it's the 6th of the month each month here. And the 12th payment will be August 6th, 2019. So when you enter in the occurrence under that payment schedule, it's going to give you information about when the occurrence is going to occur. And then here is my history. So this was entered and validated by this user. Now I can use the little pencil guy. It says edit. You'll see that in order to edit this, I do need to re-enter in the bank account information. Again, it does not save that for me because it is a safety feature. We're then able to enter in a new start date, the new fixed amount, a new number of occurrences, and a new payment amount. If the resident no longer wants to do a pre-authorized payment, or you need to disable it for any reason, perhaps they had an interim recertification and you need to disable this earlier than the 12 occurrences that were planned, you would simply use that X to disable it. I'm not going to do that now because I don't want to create issues for the site. Now if I click on the amount there at the very right hand corner, you'll see transaction details for this specific transaction. This was processed as of, you'll see July 5th. Although this was set for the 6th of every month, it processed as of the 5th. So remember on the form that I showed you, it noted the bank will draw 1 day prior to the start date. So if you're entering in the 6th of the month, you're going to see in OneSite that it processes on the 5th. And here I have my distribution. This went to the resident subjournal on the resident ledger. If you want to have a report on hand of all of the repayment or pre-authorized payments at your property, you can use the export to Excel option here. Select open. Click yes to open it. Here we go. Here we go. So here I have my building unit, the name, whether this is a current household, the description, pre-authorized payment, recurring. So if it was a one-time payment, it will note that. These are all ACH payments because again, we don't accept card. The frequency, so if it's something other than monthly, it will be noted here. The date that it processed, the status, in this case, these all processed. So you'd be able to see if any of them failed for any reason. Perhaps there was not enough money in the account could not be found. Sometimes accounts end up being frozen because the bank suspects identity theft, and the resident may not be aware until something like this happens and is blocked. So definitely communicate with the resident if you see any issues. And then the amount of the agreement here. So you can keep this on hand, print it each month, make note of who you need to follow up with, who is expiring, and who needs a new pre-authorized payment agreement. So that is how to find the forms from the letters and notices for either a single or a recurring pre-authorized payment, how to enter a new pre-authorized payment from either the resident summary tab or from the pre-authorized payments tab under the payments module, how to research and identify all of the households at your property that have pre-authorized payments, how to edit a pre-authorized payment agreement, how to view information about one, and how to disable a pre-authorized payment. So I hope that was helpful to you. One thing that I will note is that all information about transactions that are processed through payments can be seen on that summary tab here. So if I search from 7-1, you can see all of my ACH payments, IRDs, and if I come down to custom, you'll see there's a link here for recurring. So these are going to be the pre-authorized payments. So it's another place you can go to see information about all of the pre-authorized payments that have processed at your site for a specific time period. You'll see under the description that it does note that these are pre-authorized payments. So it'll be the same kind of information you get from the pre-authorized payments tab. You can also very quickly identify anything that has been returned through the payments module. And by selecting that link, you can see that in this case, this was a pre-authorized payment that was returned. If I select that amount link, I can get additional information about the agreement that was returned. So in that case, it was this payment, and I will need to contact that resident for a different type of payment, check or a money order, and clarify with them if their bank account information is still correct. If you have any issues or questions about using the pre-authorized payments function, you can always reach out to your compliance analyst. If you are having technical issues with pre-authorized payments, you're not sure why it did not go through or why it was returned, please call RealPage customer support and they can do additional research into why a payment was returned.